Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss the astrological energies of August 5th through August 12th, where we see all three personal planets change signs this week. Venus enters Libra, Mercury enters Leo, and Mars enters Cancer, all within a number of days of each other. And we're going to see a very active Venus in Libra and a very active Mercury in Leo. So we will cover that in today's show. Plus, we are approaching the Leo Solar Eclipse, which is happening next Wednesday, August 12th at 20 degrees of Leo. And this is an energy of concentrated power, strengthening confidence, and gaining clarity in what you are creating, developing, and how you are living your life. So we will touch on that energy in today's show as well. Now we have the sun in Leo with Jupiter in Leo now trailing behind the sun. And as we move through this week, you want to stay very aware of what is grabbing your attention, what is coming to your conscious awareness, and what is lighting you up, what is exciting, interesting, maybe something that is requiring more from you, more courage, or to take a step forward. And it's very important to stay aware of that this week because the sun is moving across 13 and 14 degrees of Leo and is creating a trine to Saturn retrograde in Aries at 14 degrees. That's exact on August 6th. And why this is significant is because the sun is also at the degree points where Jupiter is going to be at the end of August, bringing something to life, stabilizing it, making it stronger, clearer, more workable, and more expansive. And so the sun is covering territory that Jupiter will reach at the end of August, which is why this week is important because you are getting some kind of insights, downloads, and conscious awareness around what you're meant to put energy into that is going to have tangible manifestations. So as the sun trines Saturn on August 6th, it's also showing you more of what is going to grow, amplify, and develop when Jupiter gets to the same degree point at the end of the month. So think of it as whatever is coming up for you now, especially at 13 and 14 degrees of Leo in your chart where the sun is moving, is going to have even more energy, momentum, and developments the end of August. So this is a preview week, if you will, at what's to come in these Leo degree points in your chart. And so I want to discuss how to make the most of this particular time in Leo season and then go into more of the specific aspects of this week. But it's important to note that now that we are in Leo energy, along with Jupiter in Leo, there is an increase in light, heat, desire, motivation, and creation energy. The sun is at its strongest in Leo since Leo is ruled by the sun. This is fixed fire that concentrates. And because it concentrates and gets stronger as it does so, this is the time of year to blast away any distractions, limitations, fake energy fields that are preventing you from fully owning your confidence, strength, and power. This is a highly charged empowerment time of the year that we can make the most of when we're intentionally understanding what is changing and shifting, because at a core level, we are supported in amplifying our energy field in a way that strengthens who we are, supports self-confidence, allows you to feel stronger and more true in who you are in this lifetime. And this is an invitation to work with solar alchemy. Solar alchemy is when you're using the power of the sun to transmute, transform, and blast away any and all lower frequencies that no longer serve you. Think of how powerful it is to watch something burn up into the ethers or turn into ashes and dissolve as you blast it away. And you can hold this intention, especially this week, because of how that sun in Leo is supercharged, not only with that trine to Saturn retrograde in Aries at 14 degrees, but the sun is also going to pass over a world point of 15 degrees of Leo. The world points are 15 degrees of each of the fixed signs. So it's 15 degrees of Leo, as well as Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius. 15 degrees at the fixed signs is where energy elevates and is more prominent. These are cross quarter points from the solstice to the equinox. That's where the 15 degrees of the fixed signs reside. And so over this week, there is something more prominent and visible coming to your energetic awareness that is giving you strength and inspiration for what to lock in and focus on, what to work on, what to complete, where to be more productive. And this middle point of Leo is also being stabilized through that trine to Saturn retrograde in Aries, which allows you to properly plan, have a strategy, be disciplined, take on all the tasks and responsibilities that are necessary to see it through and make something real here based on what the fire signs desire and have been initiating. And so this is something that's already been in progress. This is something you've already been working on and working through. And Leo season brings in that boost or that bump of energy to elevate it and take it farther. This is beautiful and fortuitous energy. This is going to help you also blast away distractions, insincere people, time wasters, people who only want attention or who don't plan on doing anything or taking action. This is the energy that blasts away and burns away false intentions, nonsense, facades. It's going to allow us to get to the core and the heart of what we really want and desire and to put energy towards that. This energy of solar alchemy is going to continue to remove density and expand the evolutionary field of light that reveals what is at a core. So I'm also feeling like this is going to help people blast away any limitations in your confidence. If you've been feeling like you have imposter syndrome, or you're not ready for something, or you need more time, or you need more energy, this is going to support you in what you need to feel in order to make progress and move something ahead while removing any limitations or fears that are preventing you from evolving and growing. And so this is powerful solar alchemy that is clarifying our light bodies and our energy field and giving you a boost of strength and confidence to do the thing, to do what you are feeling called to pursue and follow. This is assertive energy. It's initiation energy. It's working with your own internal masculine. That is Leo energy, as is all fire signs. It is the desire to move ahead, pursue, initiate, and make something happen. It also is coming from greater internal confidence that can be quiet strength. And it stems from a place of quiet confidence and personal inner leadership that is not boastful. It's not prideful. It's not trying to tell everyone what is real or true or what to think or believe. That's manipulation. That is ego. That is power hungry. That is a desire to have something that only serves that person. This is a more evolved expression of confidence where you learn what is worth your time and energy and what is not. You simply stand in your integrity, and that shines brightly, and that removes everything that is false. You honor your inner dignity, and you stand true to who you are, knowing that that's the light that shines the brightest. And so this is a time to invite that energy within yourself and to use these transiting aspects to support you in what you really desire and what you really want to create in your life that matters for the long term, which is part of that trine to Saturn, because Saturn is going to stabilize something and help you see it through. This is a beautiful time period for looking at what you want to commit to for the long term, because something can lock in this week that has an uplifting life force to it. And then you're going to feel it gain even more strength as we get to that Leo Solar Eclipse on Wednesday, August 12th, which is a very important initiation gateway. So there's a lot going on this week in general, but I want to highlight that you might find that the most activity here is developing and occurring where you have 13, 14, and 15 degrees of Leo trining Saturn retrograde in Aries at 14 degrees. And those would be important areas of your chart to examine and connect some dots around those two houses. So where you have 14 degrees of Aries and where you have 13, 14, 15 degrees of Leo. So big solar activity at this time. And again, when the sun gets to 15 degrees of Leo and moves across that world point threshold, that will happen on August 6th and 7th. There's even more that comes to your conscious awareness. And in fact, this is also a good time in the world to observe what is going on when we have the sun moving across the world point degrees. Now, we are still moving away from that very dynamic and powerful Aquarius full moon that was exact back on July 29th, just last week. And there have been many interesting developments that have highlighted how significant and profound that Aquarius full moon was. And I just want to touch on this quickly because, again, it can help us to see what's happening in the real world and how accurate the astrology is. Now, unfortunately, we have had many destructive wildfires across many continents, a lot of damage, destruction, and scary situations with these wildfires. Again, we are in Leo season, which is fire sign energy. Jupiter is in Leo, expanding fire. Saturn and Neptune are in Aries, also fire signs. So there's an increase in the fire element in the cosmos. We are unfortunately seeing that on the planet, and it's not natural or organic. It's not typical to have this many wildfires occurring at the same time. So that's important to note. We also have been discussing that Leo season with the Sun and Jupiter in Leo rules royalty, and the King of Spain has been undergoing intense experiences in his country with the migrant surge of thousands of Moroccan families migrating into Spain. That was especially highlighted last week around the full moon. And with that full moon being in Aquarius conjunct Pluto, it's the extreme numbers, the extreme amount of people who are flooding into the border and creating the crisis point, which is something that Pluto is also associated with. Also, during the Aquarius full moon last week, there was the release of the 97-page external investigation report around the Interlochen Center for the Arts. Interlochen is in Michigan, and this report details decades of alleged sexual assault and sexual abuse starting from the 1950s into the 2010s. It includes 47 adults in the report, including Jeffrey Epstein. It describes the systemic abuse that was ongoing. And of course, these are horrible, atrocious revelations. And yet it continues to reveal some of the more extreme and horrible ongoing behaviors that have existed on this planet for decades. And it's also part of the Plutonic influence of this full moon, where what has been secretive and hidden, especially around abusive, traumatic acts, comes out into the public and into greater awareness. I'm also sensitive and aware to how the release of this kind of information can affect anyone who has had a similar event or experience. And if so, please prioritize your needs, yourself, and your healing. And even if it was decades ago or years ago, please seek out the appropriate professionals and support system who can help you with anything that might be stirred up for you, because unfortunately, these incidences are quite common and widespread. And you deserve to heal fully and completely with the assistance of supportive experts. And this is all very Plutonic. It stirs up stuff from the depths and could bring something in that you're ready to heal and move through. And then one other key development that happened last week, just after that Aquarius full moon was exact, is that the state of Texas has opened up their own stock exchange. The Texas Stock Exchange is being called Y'all Street, and it is meant to compete with the NASDAQ and Wall Street. The Texas Stock Exchange is scheduled to begin taking corporate listings later this year, and will also roll out listings for ETFs, exchange traded funds and products, in late 2026, and they may even be facilitating IPOs in early 2027. And so this is also certainly related to that Pluto in Aquarius conjunct the moon in Aquarius, Aquarius being the masses, the people, the public, and Pluto being wealth, power, control, what is being offered and what is being exchanged. So yes, Texas has its own stock exchange based in Dallas and is being funded by many influential financial companies, including Charles Schwab, JP Morgan Chase, BlackRock, Citadel Securities, and Fortress. And I wanted to share each of these examples because when the full moon is conjunct Pluto, it makes a very profound impact on the collective that is long term. So each of these issues is something that came to the surface or is coming to the surface that has ongoing ripple effects and things we will keep witnessing, discussing, and experience for a longer span of time than just your typical full moon. So as we've covered, this week is significant. We're still moving through the intensity and emotions of that Aquarius full moon. And as we move further into August, Venus enters Libra on August 6th, returning to one of her home signs. And she is beautifully supported over the next few weeks as she moves through Libra. Venus in Libra is now ready to have conversations that matter. She's ready to begin discussing what's been on her mind, especially during her time in Virgo, when she was more analytical, critical, and specific. Now she moves into Libra, where she can have a balanced stance and perspective on what she needs to share or explain, as well as invite in others to do the same. This Venus seeks out harmony, equilibrium, and connection. She is very charming, savvy, and interested in what is going on around her. She's also more detached and objective. So this can be a time for productive conversations, for interacting with people that maybe you haven't had time to get back to, or you haven't been able to fully engage in a dialogue that's necessary. This Venus makes it easier to do so, and she has the words come through. Her thoughts are clearer, and her expression, her self-expression, flows through her from a more intellectual, linear place. And as she moves into Libra, she's going to have an increasing trine to both Pluto retrograde in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. She first meets up with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 3 degrees. Then she opposes Neptune retrograde in Aries at 4 degrees. Then she trines Uranus in Gemini at 5 degrees. So essentially when Venus gets to 3 degrees of Libra, that's when she starts to have an increase in understanding what she needs to powerfully share, express, and consciously evolve. So we're looking at a span of days here when Venus in Libra is going to be quite active. So she enters Libra August 6th, the energy is increasing, and then it's especially potent August 9th, 10th, 11th, and also 12th during that Leo solar eclipse. And so this means there is a strength here in evolving relationships, collaborations, and partnerships that are on a shared frequency, that have a lovely harmony to them, and that are propelling you forward into new ways of connecting and relating that is significant. This could be that profound conversations happen that lead somewhere significant. This is a time to stay aware of who you cross paths with, who you speak with, who you meet, who shows up. Because that is something that's important here, is that our relationships and partnerships are about the people who show up in our lives, who are real and tangible, who we go out to dinner with and who we have fun with, as well as who we are investing in getting to know better. All of this can help your relational development skills, and it's going to bring forward very interesting conversations, opportunities, discussions that could be life-changing simply because Venus is interacting with both Pluto and Uranus through beneficial trines. This is creating an air grand trine where the movement of energy just flows and takes off. And it's also creating a kite as this Venus opposes Neptune in Aries at 4 degrees at the same time, meaning this is where there are new soulmates arriving, new people coming through who match your frequency and who recognize you. I'm feeling like recognition is an important word here. Whether you know them consciously or not, there's an energetic stream of recognition between you. And with this kite configuration, there is something new that is ready to take off. This energy is also strong during the Leo solar eclipse. Leo is about romance, dating, attraction, desire, love, sexual compatibility. It's what's in your heart that you want to magnetize in and experience with others. So as I've mentioned in some previous podcasts, this is a very beautiful time for romance and love relationships to blossom. And this is beginning a cycle that supports that. So do keep in mind that if you're like looking for something to happen right now, today, this week, you might not experience it right away, but we're entering into a time period where these energies are very dynamic and active. And it also signals that the universe needs people to come together. And that's part of what Venus in Libra is going to be prompting, where we're entering a period of time that the planet needs more love, needs more healthy love-based connections, needs to have hearts that come together that are true, passionate, real, and pure. This is a phase where we are meant to be moving into higher level partnerships that demonstrate the higher expressions of divine masculine and divine feminine, that this is a time that supports humanity's evolution in loving and appreciating one another, and also establishing healthy emotional bonds that allow for healthy, equal attachments to occur, because that's part of how we're made. We look for safety in others. We look to whom we can trust, that we can turn to and go to. We look to form healthy attachments that are interdependent, that are equal, and that give to each person in a balanced, cohesive way. And so those healthy attachments are supported in this cycle. And there's also a willingness with not only this air grand trine with Venus and Libra, but also the kite configuration to allow yourself to go into new places of connection and support that are a part of your soul growth and healing path. Healthy, equal relationships are about ongoing growth for each person, where each individual continues to take responsibility for their energy, for their needs, for the emotions that they're feeling and experiencing. And they bring that into the relationship with full responsibility for who they are, as well as a willingness to learn and grow. And so there is a very strong transformational energy signature here frontier that can take you into new places in established relationships, partnerships, friendships, collaborations, that you could go deeper in those current connections than you've been before. I mean, there is the element of going into new frontier with this strong Venus energy, especially since the kite points to Neptune in Aries, which is integrating and trusting more of your true self, your sovereign needs, and how you're becoming more of yourself as Neptune moves through Aries, which has only just started. Alongside this entry point of Venus into Aries, we also have Mercury entering into Leo on August 9th. And as Mercury moves into the fire sign energy, it has an immediate square to Chiron retrograde in Taurus at 0 degrees, which can bring up something you're not sure you want to share or say. There can be a dent to the throat chakra. There can be a sense of lacking confidence in what you need to express, not trusting yourself or your words. This could bring up a fear that you're processing and looking to regain strength around something. But then after Mercury has that square to Chiron retrograde in Taurus at 0 degrees, then Mercury enters into this dynamic combination of energy that Venus is already dancing in. And so this Mercury in Leo brings about the courage to say something, even though maybe it's been stuck in the throat or you've had fear around it. Maybe it's that text message you've never sent or that email you've been afraid to send. Something has been stagnant or stuck, but this Mercury in Leo is going to bust through it, especially starting August 10th, as this Mercury in Leo then begins to interact with the outer planets. And Mercury in Leo is going to oppose Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 3 degrees, then trine Neptune retrograde in Aries at 4 degrees, and then trine Uranus in Gemini at 5 degrees. So here we have a slow start to Mercury in Leo, where you might realize what you want to say, express, and communicate, but there is a big fear and doubt that shows up around being brave, around being confident in your words. And then there's a few days to work through that because Mercury then has an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, which brings up extremes, worst case scenarios. What if it all goes wrong? What if I make a fool of myself? What if it's not reciprocated? What if? And that Mercury in Leo can be overly focused on one's pride, one's image, not wanting to be a clown or to make a fool of oneself. And it could even be something in the subconscious that references back to a previous time in your life when that happened, especially when you were younger. But important to note that you're no longer that version of yourself. And so there is some important growth that's occurring here. It's being formed through the fire where those fears can blast away or be melted away, burnt away. And then Mercury has a new sense of this is what I want to say because I need to say it, because I need to express it. I need to move it out of even just my physical body, my brain, and my energy field. And so as that Mercury in Leo then interacts with Neptune in Aries, there's a higher power that comes through and guides you to make forward motion that's outside of the mind, outside of the plans or ideas or how you thought you would do something. This is that Neptune in Aries influence of something bigger than you, moving you forward, and it feels like something is being set free. And then there are surprising beneficial developments that occur as Mercury in Leo also sextiles Uranus and Gemini at 5 degrees, where it's going to go better than you planned, most likely, and then lead somewhere quickly. Because after Mercury gets through this fear, doubt, overthinking and overprocessing, and also feeling stuck, there is movement and fast moving communications, words, plans that flow through quite quickly. It feels like a lot can change in one day, or a lot can change in a single event, but it requires being brave, showing up, and speaking your truth, which is something that Mercury in Leo does really well. But again, there could be something from the past that feels like it's lingering or is requiring you just to face a deeper fear in order to move ahead. And that energy from the past could be widely felt because starting on August 11th, Mars enters Cancer, where Mars is more debilitated here and has to learn to swim and is not in his typical strength. Now he's actually diving into his heart, and there could be things you're wrestling with at an internal emotional level that have already been there. This is not a new story. This is not even new information. There's already been something underway that has been working through you that now Mars is feeling and experiencing. Keep in mind that we've just had Jupiter in Cancer since last year. We've already been through the Sun in Cancer cycle of 2026, and we just had Venus in Cancer plus Mercury retrograde in Cancer. So you've already been in this emotional soup, and now here comes Mars that wants you to move it through your physical body somehow. This is getting out of the head, getting out of the plans, efforts, and desires that you've been working with. And Mars entering Cancer is a surrender. And this is Mars moving into the feminine waters of the heart and intuition that has more for you to experience. That could be confusing at first, but it's interesting because I'm feeling this as energy in the background. It's not front and center because these other planetary influences are much stronger right now. And so Mars in Cancer is perhaps bringing up old memories, nostalgia, previous timelines, things that are kind of just floating through your awareness. But again, I feel it in the background. I don't feel it as front and center. And this Mars enters Cancer on August 11th, then has a sextile to Chiron retrograde in Taurus at 0 degrees on August 12th, which is the day of the Leo Solar Eclipse. And the sextile between Mars and Chiron is beautifully healing. It is receptive, grounded energy that allows you to trust yourself, to trust what you're feeling, to not overcomplicate it. Chiron in Taurus brings in a simple approach and something clear and grounded that is supporting the Mars in Cancer surrender. It could be as simple as, I know what this is. I know what this fear is. I know what this emotion is. I know what's in my heart, and I know what I'm feeling. And so if Mars can just trust that and not stir up the pot or make things turn into a tidal wave in Cancer, then it's going to be easier to flow with what is unfolding and to move it forward, which is one of the best expressions here of Mars in Cancer. You go with the flow, you allow growth to happen, and you trust the waterways that are carrying you instead of fighting them or looking to have control over them. And so then all of this leads us to the big, bright beginnings of the Leo solar eclipse on August 12th, occurring at 20 degrees of Leo in your chart. Now, I have a full video for you on YouTube going through the chart of this Leo solar eclipse, discussing these aspects more specifically and more in depth. So please be sure to check that out on YouTube. Also note that I'll be discussing this as well next Wednesday, August 12th on the Wednesday podcast. So this particular Leo solar eclipse at 20 degrees of Leo in your chart is exact at 1:37 p.m. Eastern time, and it is where the sun and the moon are conjunct, creating a concentration of energy that is meant to solidify who you are, what you desire, and what you want to create next, that builds confidence and is something you can count on going forward. Now, a solar eclipse coincides as a new moon when the sun and the moon are conjunct, when the sky is the darkest, and when there is an initiation happening here at 20 degrees of Leo, which is the beginning of the third decan of Leo. And so this is a point of spiritual maturity. The third decan is connected to mastering the Leo energies, being an adult, being responsible with your self-expression, with your needs, with how your energy is shining and how you're putting it out into the world to be seen. This solar eclipse can bring in heightened visibility around your gifts, offerings, overall energy field, and light. You may also feel that you are being recreated internally with a stronger core. And this goes back to what I mentioned at the start of the podcast, where it's a time to work with solar alchemy and to blast away any lower frequencies, energies, people, or influences that are ultimately not needed and not good for you. There's a harnessing of solar power here at its core. And the healthy Leo expression is not only that solar plexus being lit up, but it's connected to the heart chakra, and it works with love, the love frequency for self that then extends into your aura and can be felt and experienced by others. And so this can be an amplification of self-love as well as love connections, love relationships, which I'm going to keep talking about throughout August, because again, this is a cosmically timed development that is also affirming your personal work, your healing journey, your path, and how we as human beings need connection. We need emotional bonds. We need true people in our physical everyday world. And I'm especially focusing on that because it's very easy to get lost in the screen or social media or online connections without truly contemplating if they're feeding you and your real world and your physical reality, especially your five senses. So in other words, we need people that we share space with and that we can experience with all our senses, including how we read energy. We establish trust, we develop good communication with each other, healthy habits, and also continue to learn from each other. That's really important too, because who you spend time with and who you share space with can also bring into your world more for you to discover and learn that you wouldn't normally come across. So there is a social aspect here to the energy in August. And it is important to stay open because part of the fixed signs here can be closed, can be too locked in to one perspective, certain expectations, or limited understandings. It's important to be more expansive in conversations and whatever you're drawn to at this time. In fact, I've had some really fascinating conversations lately that have expanded me, and I've been asking certain people in my life for their male perspective on social media or their male perspective on certain things. And it's so cool to hear these perspectives that my brain never would have thought of in like 5 years. And so it's so awesome to hear these other understandings and viewpoints because people are so interesting and fascinating, and there's so many great people in the world. So I feel that's part of what this energy can prompt and move you into, should you desire it, are great, healthy interactions, conversations, and relationships with people who want the same. And maybe that is something that you are intending for during this Leo solar eclipse. And so I will discuss this more next Wednesday on the Wednesday podcast when the solar eclipse energy is heightened and strong. Also be sure to check out that Leo solar eclipse chart on YouTube. You'll get a lot more about the energy that can certainly apply to maybe what you're going through or experiencing at this time. I feel like this is a heart opening Leo solar eclipse. And so whether your heart has already been open or it desires to be open, it is one of the beneficial influences coming through at this time. Now, we are also in the early stages of the nodes of fate in their new astrological pair with that north node in Aquarius and that south node in Leo. The south node in Leo is actually going to be clearing out old love imprints, old areas of your heart that have been preventing new growth. It's going to clear out anything excessive that you no longer need in your life or in yourself so that you can regenerate and recreate what is pure and true for you now, alongside that north node in Aquarius, giving you new levels of consciousness, ideas, and understandings that you wouldn't have contemplated or come across previously. That North Node in Aquarius is very spicy. It's dynamic and creative. It extends us beyond what we would normally contemplate. It takes you further into cosmic consciousness and higher levels of awareness. And so this is a cycle that is just beginning of seeing your life in a new way from a higher vantage point, and then allowing that to influence what you create and invest in that inspires you and motivates you. This is a fast moving North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo, which is a very different energy than the previous pair of the North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. Those energies tend to be more receptive, quiet, observing, and internal. The Virgo Pisces energy dynamic can be a bit more introverted, focused, and observant, where this new pair of energies with that Aquarius Leo dynamic is fast moving, action oriented, participatory, and highly creative. There's a surge in life force and creative power now, and you might start to feel that is accelerating you or growing within you. And it is one of the best ways to work with this shift in the nodes of fate. And on that note, I have just released my deep dive program into the nodes of fate. It's called Star Dancing with the North Node in Aquarius and South Node in Leo. If you have planets or points in Aquarius or Leo, this is a very important cycle for you that's going to be working with you over the next 18 months and is actually stirring up where you are experiencing an increase in growth through that North Node and a decrease in priorities with the South Node. This is a very important 19-year cycle for planets in Aquarius and planets in Leo. So if you have any planet in either of those signs, it's really important that you're aware of how the nodes of fate are going to be working with you. And in this program, I teach you how to determine that, how to find that, how to track it, the themes that are coming up for you, the previous cycles to be aware of. I also discuss what it means if you have in your natal chart the North Node in Aquarius, you are experiencing a nodal return that only happens once every 19 years. And conversely, if you have the North Node in Leo, you are experiencing a nodal reversal, which is also very significant because it brings about important life turning points. Now, if you do not have any planets or points in Aquarius or Leo, you're still going to understand what is increasing for you at this time, as that North Node in Aquarius moves through your chart and activates important areas of your life that are connected to fated developments for you at this time on your journey. So this is a program that you're meant to reference into March 2028. You can come back to it as you track the nodes of fate and what's going on in your own chart. But ultimately, I hope this empowers you to have a heads up on what is coming through for you in this cycle, as well as what is leaving and where you're going to have those decreases in your life. I always want to make my programs affordable. So it is on sale for only $25 when you use coupon code STARDANCER at checkout. It is composed of 13 videos totaling over 300 minutes, and you can come back and watch them as many times as needed. So do check that out. I will put the link in the podcast description. Also, I wanted to mention that I realized there was an erroneous link from Monday's podcast. So Ascending Between Eras has a corrected link below as well. I'm sorry for any issues you might have had with that link, but it should work properly now. You can also find it over on my website at mollymccord.online if that's just easier for you to go over there. As always, thank you so much for joining me. We have quite a week of astrology ahead as we move further into August. Wishing you a bright, beautiful, powerful journey of solar alchemy. And as always, I'll be back on Monday and Wednesday for new episodes. Have a beautiful week ahead, friends, and I'll see you back here soon.